How's it going, everybody? I've got some more Magic for you today with a little bit of a Mardu Exile deck. This is, I would say, more of a control deck than anything, and it's a lot of fun for the person playing it, not so much for any opponents up against it. But the idea behind this deck is primarily that there are so many prevalent graveyard synergistic strategies right now that I wanted a deck that worked well and took those off the table. So, obviously, one of the big selling points of this deck is Rest in Peace. It is one of the main things that we're going to use to make sure that our opponent doesn't have a graveyard, but we do also double or even triple down on that with things like Strategic Betrayal, also getting rid of graveyards, and Deadly Cover-Up, being able to target our opponent's graveyard and remove cards from their library, hand, and graveyard from doing so. Now, these are going to be pretty situational. If you've already got Rest in Peace on the battlefield, Strategic Betrayal and Deadly Cover-Up are essentially just removal spells, but that's fine, because that's what they're here for anyway, is to remove things. Deadly Cover-Up as just a board wipe is entirely fine, and we've got things like Day of Judgment and Pinnacle Star Cage to work with that as well. Strategic Betrayal as a sacrifice option is really fantastic, because I have run into quite a few people that are running things like, for example, enchantment decks that want to use the Shard Mage's Rescue enchantment to protect their creatures, and this is really fantastic for that. As a matter of fact, it really helps in a lot of mono-green matchups too, where you go up against the Landfall deck and they're trying to protect their Tifa or Bristly Bill or what have you, maybe their Mossborn Hydra, with a Snakeskin Veil or something along those lines, so they have that hexproof and or indestructible modifier that they can put onto their creatures, but it doesn't help from being sacrificed or from being exiled. So we have things like Seam Rip, Strategic Betrayal, Pinnacle Star Cage, Ride's End, all of those exile without destroying. Now, we do have plain old destroy functionality as well, things like Deadly Cover-Up, Day of Judgment, Ultima, even Lightning Helix. And you might be wondering why you would play red in this deck, because you could very easily accomplish something similar with like an Orzhov Exile deck that plays off of Ketramos also, but I really felt that the addition of Inevitable Defeat being non-counterable and having that way of gaining you life while hurting your opponent, as well as Lightning Helix so you can ping your opponent and gain life that way, really makes this deck more survivable than just playing the normal Orzhov route, especially since when you exile something with Ketramos out on the battlefield, something of your opponent's, then it draws you a card and loses one life. So these little things that allow us to gain back life while doing that are really, really nice. And it doesn't make a huge impact on land. All we've really got to supplement those two are a playset of Blazemire Verge and a playset of Sacred Foundry, and then if you really need red from it, you can also use the Multiversal Passage to come in as a mountain. And that does come up. More often than not, I'll end up having Multiversal Passage be a mountain and enter tapped, so it is relevant. Things like Authority of the Councils also helps really gain life, and Seam Rip really helps you deal with early threats from your opponent. We don't really need to worry too much about an opponent having something like an Authority of the Councils against us, since the only creatures we're going to have are going to be our playset of Ketramos and our Nightmare tokens from Ashiok. However, there are a lot of really annoying early enchantments, creatures, things like that, that having Seam Rip to get rid of is really nice. And if they do get rid of the Seam Rip, it can only take things of mana value 2 or less. If they get rid of the Seam Rip to try and get that back in the future, we still have Pinnacle Star Cage to eat up all of those things anyway. This is a really, really nice card to effectively put many things in exile and helps against a lot of decks like Mono-Green Landfall, like the Orzhov Sacrifice deck, things like that. Even a lot of Dimir decks or Simic decks right now that are really aggressive and have a lot of 1 or 2 drop creatures playing off of things like Drunith. This is really, really helpful to have. It's even really good if you keep in mind if you run into Selesnya Rabbits. It's less common right now, but even if you run into that deck, having this Pinnacle Star Cage can completely shut down their deck just by eating up all their little low mana cost creatures. Anyway, we do have, like I said, Ashiok. This is more of a control style deck, so we're not playing a lot of creatures, and that gets annoying playing creature decks right now, because most people are running so much removal, because it's so necessary. You have to be able to shut down those fast decks, that if you're playing any kind of creature synergistic deck, it's going to be ruined by your opponents most of the time, and you're not going to have very much fun. So the counter, in my opinion, of if they're not going to let me have fun, I'm not going to let them have fun. So this deck is the I am making sure you don't have nice things deck. So nothing in graveyard, nothing on board, in a lot of cases nothing in hand. So yeah, this is the if I'm not allowed to play, then neither are you kind of deck. So if you're spiteful, this one's kind of fun in that regard. It can be kind of long drawn out matches. This can go up well against control decks as well, though, because you're not really trying to push out spells over and over and over on their turn, so they end up having to waste a lot of their counter spells as draws instead, in the case of like 3 steps ahead and stuff like that. I do have a sideboard. We've got a couple of Beza in case you're up against an aggressive matchup. This can be really helpful getting that extra life gain on top of what we already have here. Ancient Vendetta. This card is really situational. It's helpful for a player like me because I spend so much time playing the game. I'm very familiar with what most decks are. I watch a lot of content creators other than myself so that I can keep up with trends. So when I'm up against an opponent, a lot of times I'll be able to name their win conditions without having to actually see their whole deck to do it. We've got things like Elspeth Stormsplayer and Ugin. Elspeth in combination with Ashiok and even Beza potentially can be really, really helpful, but we're not playing a lot of things that play off of that particularly. Ugin obviously works really well in this too because it acts as its own type of removal, but we're not playing a lot of artifacts that can trigger Ugin's ability, so this is more of a draw and gain life mechanic rather than a consistent form of removal for you. We do have Duress if you need to hit the hand of your opponent more frequently, especially in a matchup like against a control deck. I've got more at the end. There's none in the main board because this really isn't a the end deadly cover-up remove all of their win conditions type of deck. This is a remove everything that they have and win, whether you win by them surrendering, which is going to happen more often than not, or whether you win by bleeding them out with things like the deadly, well, not the Lightning Helix, Inevitable Defeat, and Ketramos. So it's just conditional depending on what you need in the matchup. This could even be adjusted quite a bit if you really needed to. If you're seeing that you're running into a lot of enchantments that you need to deal with, a viable option would be to put in sideboard here maybe some Get Lost instead, or Exercise. I'm playing this deck mostly in best of one, so this was a broad sideboard that I could put together that would be useful with this deck, but you're absolutely welcome to tweak this to your needs based on what you're finding in matches more frequently. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get into matches. I think I've more or less explained everything about the deck. We do have one Ultima, which doesn't always work great with Pinnacle Starcage, but that's okay. It's more in here to deal with your artifact-focused decks, your opponents of using Jeskai or Azorius artifacts, so that's why we have the one of here. And you could absolutely put one in the sideboard too, one or two of them, instead of these deadly cover-ups if that's something you're running into more. Like I said, though, I'm going to go ahead and get into games. I'm going to be playing best of one like I normally do, going for 3 wins. Hopefully you guys like this deck. I really enjoy it, but like I said, it's not necessarily fun for everybody. Your opponent's going to be pretty miserable, and most of your wins that you get are going to be from them surrendering, potentially without you ever even having done any damage to them, because they're just tired of getting everything that they have removed. But let's go ahead and get into some games. Alright, land looks pretty exceptional here. We don't have really any problem. We can just go for a swamp here and get everybody online right away. So I think I'm okay with keeping this. Unfortunately, our opponent does go first. Go swamp, and I'll just have it untap since I don't have a 1-drop. Umbral Color Zealot. So it looks like we're actually up against maybe like a Mardu Sacrifice deck, maybe something like Mobilize. I'm going to go ahead and go here so that we can use Ride's End on the Zealot. Get that out of the way. We don't have to worry about Raise the Past with this deck either. There's so many graveyard synergies right now that it's just really important that you play things like this that can fight back against it. That's the last land that we've got here, so we're looking to get some land in our next few draws. Another Zealot. Let's go ahead and hit this with the Helix so they can't capitalize on the Zealot at all. And then I think I'm okay with going for Strategic Betrayal here to get rid of both. We've got Star Cage if they want to keep playing any quick little things. Yeah, that's really nice to get rid of. Unfortunately, we can't get rid of it with anything we have because we're missing land, so that's going to hurt us right now if we don't draw into any. Fortunately, there's nothing in the graveyard for them to get back with Alesha, so that's not really an issue. Weapons manufacturing is a really weird choice. Okay, so we could get rid of weapons manufacturing with Seam Rip, or we could hold up Inevitable Defeat. I think we take the damage and get rid of the weapons manufacturing for now so they don't get to actually benefit from it. We're going to take 1 extra damage from Lesha here because of that, but I think it's fine. We're trying to stop them from producing any long-term results, so I think this is good. We are in need of another white mana, which we just got. That's pretty fantastic. Based on that... I want to get rid of Alesha, but this thing can get indestructible. Alright, we're going to take a few turns and play this slow. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it with Inevitable Defeat. Let's start by getting rid of Alesha, and then we'll get rid of the Emmerstrom Predator next. If he's smart, he'll sacrifice Alesha to the Predator, but doing that means he can't attack this turn, so I didn't think that would be his play. Because if he had sacrificed the Alesha to the Predator, then he could have prevented me from gaining life. New Alesha's fine. I'm going to go ahead and pass here again. I'm going to be getting rid of this Predator now this time. We no longer have to worry about flying blockers now, which is good. Unfortunately, his land is going to be a persistent issue that we'll have to figure out how to deal with. We got another Inevitable Defeat, which is nice. I think, in fact, I'm going to pass and use it to try and get rid of the land. Can I target this with, or can I target land with this? No, I can only target non-land permanents with this. Just go ahead and get rid of Alesha then. Soul Cauldron doesn't really matter. Okay, we're looking good here. I would like to hold up the Ride's End, because this will work on creatures that are lands. So I'm going to hold up the Ride's End so that we can deal with whatever land creatures he may attack with next. Because if I went with Ashiok or anything like that, it wouldn't be able to maintain board presence for me. Go ahead and go here like this to get rid of that, which also means that we get rid of a land from them, which is nice for us too. How big would this be? Okay. I really need a land, or need multiple lands, but I think this is the only way I'm going to be able to do this here. Let's go ahead and get Alesha going, or Ashiok going, and get some Nightmare tokens. Hopefully we can use those as at least enough blockers to buy us time until we get the land that we need. Him going for the Cauldron actually caused our tokens to get bigger. I'm sure that wasn't intentional on his part. We do have more Alesha if he gets rid of ours without our creatures. So we just gotta wait and see right now. He realized his mistake with the Cauldron. Okay, getting rid of our graveyard. Again, really just kind of helps us, honestly. Sephiroth, interesting choice. I'm just gonna kill that, but okay, so let's go Ketramos. Lightning Helix on Sephiroth. and we're going to go ahead and +1 with Ashiok. I do want land, and we don't need the Foundry at this point, so I'll take the Blazemire. That will grow our Nightmare token, so we can attack in. He can keep exiling things if he wants, but it's actually going to lend to me drawing more cards at this point, so that's a bad move on his part. Umbra Color Zealot. And he loses. So, I don't know entirely what the opponent was going with here. I guess overall they were trying to do a sacrifice deck in Mardu colors that was going to play off of weapons manufacturing. I don't think this is the way to build that if you're going to. There are definitely ways to do it. Umbra Color Zealot's a good choice. Weapons manufacturing's fine. I don't know how I feel about Agatha's Soul Cauldron in this. It seemed like they wanted to build something that was going to be very graveyard hate oriented as well. But as you can see, I'm playing the same colors, and mine kind of came out significantly on top because I wasn't relying on creatures to accomplish anything. I did have to slow roll it a little bit because we got kind of stuck on land for a while. But when we finally were able to get Ashiok down, that really fixed a lot of those issues for us because it's able to draw us more cards. Yeah, pretty decent game 1. Let's go ahead and see if we can find a good game 2. Alright. Land looks okay. We don't have any good cards to play though, but I'm just going to keep it because the land's playable. Opponent almost passed without playing any land. Definitely think Shadowy Backstreet's the better choice here, land-wise, to go with first. I don't want that. I really need something that isn't land. Playing an enchantment deck here with our opponent, so that's interesting, I guess. We have a really good chance of getting Pinnacle Starcage out next turn, so we'll see what we get from that. Ethereal Armor's fine. And then an attack there, yeah, that doesn't matter at all. They'll probably be thinking they can protect it, but let's just go with Pinnacle Starcage. Okay, no more lies, I didn't expect that. Another Weaver, hit for 4. Pretty unpleasant. Let's go ahead and get another Blazemire down. Now we can start doing these inevitable defeats, and they can't be countered or prevented in any way, so we'll go ahead and get rid of the Web Weaver. Heal up a little bit, and they can still attack with the regular one. I think what I want to do here is actually bait out some more cards from them, so let's get Ashiok going. No More Lies is fine. Again, I was just using it as bait, so... I want them to commit more to this Web Weaver before I get rid of it. Okay, we'll go ahead and get rid of it again. Okay, attacking with a land, I suppose, now. I don't even know if they have the Shard Mage's Rescue in hand. I assume that's what their last card is, but I honestly don't know. I'm going to go ahead and get Ketramos down now, though, because that's going to be helpful for us. Hopefully we can hit their land, their anchorage, with this Lightning Helix. Because we can't hit it with Inevitable Defeat, it can't hit land. No More Lies again, which is annoying. Let's go ahead and get our Ketramos online. That way we can gain some life. What do I want to get rid of? Sheltered? Yeah. So that's going to help us out quite a bit. Getting back a little bit of life, which is very helpful. And then we've got a Seam Rip, which unfortunately isn't extremely helpful here, but that's fine. Their anchorage is not going to be much of a threat as long as we can keep hitting back. Really need to draw something here that can give us what we need to get rid of that anchorage, though, because it is annoying. Just a clock at the moment, unfortunately. I'd really love if they would play anything other than just continuing this anchorage, because it's so frustrating. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the Inevitable Defeat to gain life off of the map token. Let's go ahead and attack in again. This bit's actually pretty annoying. I think we risk this to draw a card and see what we get. Landed in it, but we can get it out of our way at least. Let's go white. The mana on this, 3, so yeah, we can't hit it with the Seam Rip either. As long as he keeps back... Okay, he's not keeping back blockers. Weird. We'll see how that goes. Ketramos has Menace, though. So I think he may have just misplayed here. Well, let's just be sure anyway and get rid of it in case he has another flash creature. Yeah. So, I don't know what his last card was. Maybe it was another Bookworm so that he could play down 2 and block the Ketramos, and we really couldn't afford that. So, I was going for the Strategic Betrayal here. It also would have drawn us a card which could have gotten us another Lightning Helix or something along those lines. But this just guaranteed that we weren't going to get blocked. But even if this was anything other than another creature with Flash, then there's a really good chance that we were going to win this either way here. Just because we used that Inevitable Defeat on the map token to gain back life. That really is what put us in the winning tide against this stupid anchorage. The one downside of these Inevitable Defeats is it has to be a non-land permanent. So you can't get rid of land creatures, which is so frustrating. But, so that is one of the big weaknesses of this deck, is we don't have a lot of instant speed removal that can deal with land creatures and things like that. Anyway, pretty decent game 2. Let's see if we can get a good game 3 and get this deck out of the way video-wise. Unfortunately, our opponent does get to go first, but our land looks pretty okay, and we've got a good start. It's going to be a aggressive deck from the looks of things, which is unfortunate. Slick Shot. At least it's not a lot of damage, I can say that. Based on that, let's go ahead and go Shadowy Backstreet. Ride's End's fine, and then we'll Seam Rip the Slick Shot. We do have Authority of the Councils in this deck too, though I've not drawn it in a single one of my games yet. So that's pretty unfortunate. Shock from the opponent's pretty irrelevant. Let's go ahead and get down some red, and then pass. We've got plenty of removal options that we can do at instant speed. So, totally fine there. Screaming Nemesis is annoying, but we can just deal with it in very much the same way. Not too bad. Let's go ahead, and I will pay some life here. Just so that we can try and get Ketramos going as quick as possible. I am going to take one more damage as everything gets exiled and I draw a card. We are still one off from having Ketramos be online, so we'll have to see what we can do about that. If they play a burn spell or anything like that, though, yeah, that'll work. Enter tapped. Pinnacle Star Cage to take their creature. Now Ketramos is online and I can attack. We'll go ahead and get the other Rest in Peace on battlefield at this point too. Okay, so really a pretty easy match there, all things considered. It would have been nice if we could have had Ketramos online one turn earlier to block the 2/2, or if they played out a few more things. I don't know what they're holding in hand. It doesn't seem like it's land. Maybe it's some kind of pump spells or something along those lines, but I kept taking their creatures. As long as you get to maintain your control of the board and exile everything that they have enough, then Ketramos having life gain is more than enough to get you through it. Again, we have Authority of the Councils in here. It is only a 2-of because Seam Rip is just a little bit more useful in this deck. But we do have Authority of the Councils in here for these matchups as well to gain us life. So anyway, that was 3 games. This one might have been the most lackluster, but you will absolutely go up against Mono Red, and I wanted to show that it has the capability to do so. So I do want to also mention I'm going to be kind of taking a step back from Magic videos for the next little bit, just until the next set comes out. I've had a request to continue the Baldur's Gate 3 series that I was doing, so I'm going to be prioritizing that in the next few weeks. I want to do it during any downtime that I can between Magic sets, so as things are kind of stale at this point, I may still release a deck here or there for most likely Mondays or Tuesdays, but I'm going to try and fill up most of the week with Baldur's Gate videos, so you'll probably be seeing those on the channel for a little bit. If you haven't checked out the series, maybe watch that. You might enjoy it. If not, I mean, you're always welcome to give me ideas, like ask about different decks or card combinations in the comments, and I'll see if that, maybe gives me some ideas for decks that I want to do for videos. But until then, it's just going to be a lot less common for me to upload a Magic video, at least until the next set releases. Which, if I'm not mistaken, the next set is going to be the Avatar: The Last Airbender set. I'm at least moderately excited for that. I need to look into some of the card spoilers because I haven't checked them out too much yet, but it'll be nice getting into something else. This Spider-Man set was really kind of a letdown for me. The Mayhem mechanic's cool, I like some of the cards, but they're just not competitively viable. That's why, like, in this deck, the only new Spider-Man set cards that I have are my land. And it's just because they're not that good. The only thing that's come from it that's, like, significantly combative against other decks is Reanimator. And there's so many reanimation style decks. Like, you've got the Orzhov Sacrifice decks running Raise the Past. You've got the VV Cauldron decks, so anything using Cauldron is already gonna get hit. You've got the Caballero decks, and there's like 3 or 4 different versions of that between like Dimir, Grixis, there's so many different types of those. What's it called? The 3-color one, I think it's Sultai, that has the Awaken the Dead Saga card or whatever. Anyway, like lots of Caballero decks. Not to mention you already had Dinosaurs, which was a really good Reanimator deck. There's so many things. There's the, what are they? Insidious Roots decks. Even I've made a couple of those. The Oculus deck, Jeskai Oculus. There's so many decks that are synergizing with graveyard related stuff right now. That's why I built this, was just so this is what I've been playing to combat those decks right now. And it's a lot of fun for me. It's not so much fun for anybody else, but that's what I'm saying is, like, if everybody's playing these obnoxious turn 4 decks that are keeping you from playing and have fun, then the counter to that I've come up with is you're not allowed to have nice things. So that's what this deck is, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for joining me for another video.